In this session, we're going to look at creating external style sheet. First of all, we need to create a new HTML document. So we'll click into New, HTML, and I'm just going to give it a title of CSS and go Create. Next, I'm going to save this file and just call it Index and save this into our root directory of our website. Now, the next thing we need to do is actually create a cascading style sheet. Now, the reason for this, we can have inline styles, which means every time we want to replicate that style, we'll need to copy and paste the line of code throughout our document. We can actually create style sheets in the header section, but if there are multiple pages, we will need to copy and paste those style sheets across to all the pages to keep them uniformed. And therefore, any change would require us to access either every page or every line of code that uses that style. So the best way, and the industry standard, is to use an external style sheet. This is saved in a folder such as CSS or within the root directory of your website. My suggestion is use a folder called CSS, and then any page can reference that CSS. So we change one style sheet which updates our whole website. You can have multiple style sheets if required, and putting them all in one folder is good practice. So let's create the style sheet. This is normally just a blank HTML document, or in this case a blank text document. So I'm just going to create a blank CSS. It does actually put a couple of lines of code in for us. You can have those or you can leave them out. The next thing we need to do is save this. So I will save them. I'm going to put it in the CSS folder and I'm going to call it styles.css and click on save. Now once this is in there, I can close this file, and we need to associate that style sheet with this web page. Now I'm going to cheat and use Dreamweaver's little function here and just drag and drop. And what this does for us is writes the code for us. But if you're doing this manually, you need to use relationship, which is the style sheet. Its type is text CS, and also its reference href equals the folder and then the name of the file. And if I'm going to use it in another page, I can use the same style sheet by actually copying this one line of code and pasting it in the header section, and that HTML document as well will be associated with this style sheet. The next thing we need to do is actually create some things on our body tag for the style sheet to adjust. So first of all, let's put a heading in there. H1 tag, www.lmarsden.com. We'll close the H1 tag off. So there's our heading. We'll also put in a table. What we'll do is just go insert and go table. I want a 3 by 2, 400 pixels. Click on OK, and the table comes in. I can actually then put some objects in here if I want. I can put username, and then we can have password, and also I'll put a button down here, which means insert form button, and on the value of the button we'll just change it. Rather than button, we'll put password. So we've got two texts and a button on here at the moment. So let's just close this up just a little bit so we can see our page. Now I need to save these, so I'll just save this at the moment. Because we've associated the file in here, you'll notice that on Dreamweaver we've now got the file as a sub-selection tool. So this is where all the CSSs will occur. So let's start with our heading. So I want to deal with the H1 tag to begin with. So we put in H1, and then an open curly brace and close the curly brace. So what do we want to do with the title? Well, let's start by changing its color. So I can actually come in and change color, and I can define its color by giving it a value. Now save this and click over here, and you notice the title's turned blue. If I want to change it to another color, I can easily do that by turning it green. And it does the same thing. So if I have another, and I'll just turn it back to blue. If I have another tag, say after the table, I could actually come in here and say H1. I'll just put Marsden, close the tag. When I click over here, it automatically picks up the color change and displays that. So every time H1 occurs, so if we do change it back to green, anything associated with the H1 tag changes color. But I'll leave it blue at the moment. Alright, what else can we do with this? We can also change, say, the background color. So the background color, don't use a U because we are using American, and it's going to be background dash color. And then we can define the color. So we could actually say yellow and a semicolon. And now all the H1 tags have a background of yellow. So let's get rid of Marsden at the bottom there, because we won't be needing that at the moment. And now we can pick up any other tag that is used within the body. So we've got a TR, which is for our table. So let's have a look at changing our TR, or maybe our table data. So let's change our table data tags. So let's go TD. So I want to change the table data. And what do I want to do with that? Well, let's have a look at changing the color again. And we can give it a color, and we can actually say, let's go with blue. Go back to our split screen. So we can see that change color pretty quickly. But this time when we go background, let's try to change the way at which we approach the background. Now we can use standard colors or preset colors like red, blue, green, etc., etc. Otherwise we can use what's called a hexadecimal color. So we can use a hashtag, and then it's going to use red, blue, green. And they go from, and I'll just put a comment in up here. So when we're using the red, blue, green, we actually use the hash symbol. I'll just put a bookmark in. So it uses the hash symbol, and then we have 2 red channels, 2 green channels, and 2 blue channels. And what that gives us is a value from 0 being totally off through to F being totally turned on. And that gives us 16 options for the first red channel and 16 options for the second red channel. And then we have 16 and 16 again, and then 16 and 16. And the good thing about this is it actually gives us a total of 16,777,216 possible color combinations. So using just this method of red, blue, green, we can actually create some really cool colors. So like I said, we can actually have channels turned off. So we could have the red channel turned off, the green channel turned fully on, and we can have the blue channel turned off. And then when I select out here, you notice that anything using the table data, which are these fields here, have actually turned green. If I want to make that a yellow as well, I could turn on the red channel, and that's also a yellow. So that's with the red channel turned on and the green channel. If I want to put a bit of blue in there, I might put in a couple of 9s, and there's a bit of blue in there. Or if I want to turn that on full, we actually get white when all the colors are turned on. So if we wanted to, we could actually have 34, A2, and F2, and we've got an orange. So there's lots of ways to actually change your color, and you get more options using this rather than blue, yellow, red, etc. So black, white. So this gives us a more control over our color. So let's change this. Let's go back to, say, a blue. So let's go to the 0000 FF. So it turns our table blue. Notice we can't see our fonts now. So let's change this to white. So we're going to go hashtag, and we're going to turn these fully on. So it's FF, FF, FF. So when I click over here now, we can see that they're all white. The new ways we can actually use them is actually using the red, green, blue alpha channel. So alpha uses the transparency. And what that allows, if we do select a color, we can actually use the red, the blue, the green, but we can also adjust the transparency from 1 being on down to 0 being off. So halfway is 0.5. So we can actually adjust it like so. And when we click out here and click across, so that has a half transparency as well. So it's not as intense. So that's using the red, blue, or red, green, blue alpha channel. Otherwise, the new way is once again using the hash to come in. Rather than using the hexadecimal, we can actually use the hues and saturation, which does the same sort of thing. So we can actually select the red, the alpha, and when I click enter, you see it's using hue saturation layer as well with alpha, and uses percentages rather than using values between 0 and 256. So the previous color, red, blue, green A, goes from 0 to 256. The alpha colors go from 0% to 100% for hue and saturation. And if we go back to the original hexadecimal up here, they're using the 16 colored ones. So using the newer versions of colors and the most popular one is generally the red, green, blue, alpha. Using these give you more control over the colors that you will see. We could actually adjust the alignment as well. We could actually change the table. Go back into split view. We can actually adjust the table and say, well, the text align, we would like it to be in the center. And when we click over here, username and the button, all the text has moved to the center. If we wanted to, we can actually indent the title from the right hand side. We could actually come up the top here and say, well, text indent is actually going to be 50 pixels. So that'll move it in from the border 50 pixels. So that gives you some alignment, gives you some basic tags that you can adjust in your HTML. And this is a good way of controlling all your pages and the presentation of your pages using a cascading style sheet.